You get to validate you. You get to recognize on a deep core level, below everything else, I am worthy. I am enough just as I am. Welcome to the Alive and Aligned podcast, a show dedicated to helping you live a life of truth and share your fullest gifts with the world. I'm your host, Pete Byrne, and I'm here to open your mind to new perspectives, to introduce you to some epic humans who are already out there living their deepest truth. So now just grounding in, taking a breath, letting go of anything you're still holding onto from today, and just opening up to receiving this episode now. Let's dive on in. Welcome to this solo episode of the Alive and Aligned podcast on worthiness. So, of all the topics in personal development that I have come across, people talk about confidence, they talk about, relationship styles, they talk about, getting down to the core root of their needs and their values. Ultimately, my take on the matter is that everything stems back to worthiness. Our desire as humans to feel worthy, to feel enough, okay? To feel of worth. And I believe that everything that we do in life is as a result of wanting to feel worthy and feel like we're validated and enough, okay? Broad assumption, but I believe that is the core bedrock that everything else is built off. And so when I approach personal development and my work, okay, I'm always trying to find ways to, first of all, help people understand that like how worthiness is maybe driving their behaviors and inviting them or forcing them to do things that maybe don't make sense on the surface, but it's as a result of the seeking of that worthiness and validation. So that could be, for instance, like someone driving themselves violently into the ground, into a burnout from overworking for many years and not understanding why they can't switch off and keep doing it. Well, it's because they never felt worthy as a child and they're now trying to prove their worth by achieving material success in their lives. So that would be a really good example of why someone is doing a continuous behavior that is not serving them on many levels, but actually is because it's trying to meet that deep unfulfilled need for worthiness. So what I wanted to do today is to give you one of my favorite analogies that I love to share with people, okay? And I hope that this helps you understand how we may have learned in growing up and in our development to have our need for worthiness met. Okay, and how you can repattern and feel differently on an embodied level, okay? How you can go about meeting those feelings of worthiness and feeling validated and enough by the world, okay? So I want you to imagine, okay, that everybody is driving around in a car, okay? We've all got our individual vessel, our individual car, call it a body or a meat suit. But we're just going to think of it like it's a four-wheel car, okay, driving around on the roads. Now, every car, okay, some people have bigger petrol tanks than others, okay? Some people need a lot of petrol to keep them going. Others need very little. But most people are going around in the world running off a petrol tank. And every now and again, they need to go and stop off at a gas station and fill up with petrol, okay? Otherwise, they can't keep going. They can't go on anymore, okay? So let's imagine worthiness, okay, as the petrol tank. It's the fuel that drives us as humans, okay? It's the thing that makes us tick, keeps us going, okay? And we need this petrol, this worthiness petrol to survive, to keep going. Without it, we will just crash and die and there'll be no point in living anymore. So really important that we get our worthiness fix. Now, we've been brought up and conditioned to believe that the only way that we can get this worthiness fix is from gas stations, is by filling up from the external world, okay? We get worthiness from outside of us and it allows us to feel good and to keep going in life. And then at a certain point, we need to start thinking again about where's the next place I'm going to get my worthiness from, okay? I need to fill up my tank soon. Okay, so we're driving around and as that gas meter gets lower and lower, we get more and more stressed and we'll do we're willing to pay bigger prices for gas, okay? We're willing to give more of ourselves up in order to receive that worthiness. So this is why some people will literally drive themselves into the ground overworking or staying in toxic relationships or doing things that are actually not aligned with their highest values because they're just so desperately trying to fill their tank up, okay? Because they're running so low on that worthiness and they're so scared of what's going to happen if they run out, okay? So like I said, this is a very inefficient strategy because now we're just spending pretty much our entire lives with one eye always on the gas meter in the car. We're constantly driving around, and even though we can enjoy life to a degree, you know, we can kind of take in the view, we're still always watching that meter and topping up as every time we get the opportunity, okay? It's not a very free way to live, you know? We're somewhat bound by conditions when we're getting our self-worth from these external petrol stations or these external places in our life. So petrol stations could be, you know, from our parents, you know, they were our original petrol station where we used to fill up. We used to go to our parents and, you know, we learned maybe certain behaviors in ways that were accepted and validated that we received petrol for. So, you know, maybe we came home from school and we, you know, got average grades, but we, you know, did a really nice painting. Well, you're not going to get much petrol for that, mate. You know what I mean? You're going to actually have to be the best in class if you want to get topped up at this petrol station. So then we adapt and change our behavior and sacrifice more of ourselves in order to receive the petrol we need to continue living and to feel, you know, loved and seen and worthy and validated. So then we go out in the world and once again, we learn what are the things that are going to give us the most petrol in order for us to continue and to survive and to even start working towards thriving in life. However, the problem with all this is that, like we said, we're still tethered to this external need for validation and worthiness from the outside world. Now, I want you to really take this in, okay? One of the biggest shifts that any human can realize in their life, particularly if they've spent their whole life driving around with their petrol engine, going to gas stations, one of the biggest shifts that you can ever have in your life is to realize that you don't just have a petrol engine, okay? You also have a self-powering hybrid battery in your car as well, okay? Now, most people don't know that this exists, okay? Some people crack the code nice and early. Some people are shown it by their parents that are not selfish and trying to have their own needs met through their children, show the child that they have a self-powering worthiness hybrid battery inside of their car. They show them how to use it, how to find it. They empower them to use their internal self-powering hybrid battery. And what that allows them to do is it allows them to drive for long periods of time without needing very much from the outside world. They can go out in the world and drive anywhere. And as long as they occasionally rest and top up a little bit and be with themselves, then they can recharge their internal self-worth hybrid battery, which powers itself, which is coming from a place of, I validate me. I am deeply worthy inside. I do not need the worthiness or approval or validation from others. Yes, it feels really good to occasionally, you know, get topped up and go into a petrol station and get some extra fuel. And like it gives me a bit of a kick every now and again. I enjoy that, but it's not the basis of how I live, okay? I don't need that to keep going. And can you feel the difference in power when you realize that you have access to both? Now, maybe you've spent your entire life believing that all you had was this external petrol engine that needed to keep being filled up by these external people and things, okay? And what a relief. What a bloody relief to realize you don't need to do that. Your existence and your sense of self and worthiness and validation in the world is not based primarily on this external worthiness and validation coming from others. You get to validate you. You get to recognize on a deep core level, below everything else, I am worthy. I am enough just as I am. That is the self-powering hybrid battery in the car that keeps fueling itself. No matter what happens outside, even if people tell us we're a piece of shit, that we're no good, that we'll never do anything in life, you're going to end up in a ditch. I still got my battery running inside. I don't need your petrol. I know you think that I need your petrol and you're trying to manipulate me into, wanting your petrol, but I don't need it, okay? I have cracked the code. I validate me. I am already worthy. I'm already enough. I don't need you anymore. Can you hear the power in that? how freeing that is to never need validation from outside. Sure, don't get me wrong, it feels great, but you don't need it. It's not the primary thing. If all else fails, if every petrol station in the world turned you away and said, you're not enough, you don't deserve this petrol, you can still drive around and do your thing and never need any of it ever again. How liberating. And so now that you're kind of starting to let this insight seep in, okay, can you recognize where are the areas in your life that you are going to people and situations that maybe are not actually aligned with your deeper values, but you're going there to top up your petrol tank because a part of you still believes you still need to do that, that you need them, you need something, or you're getting something from them. And as soon as you turn on the hybrid internal self-worth battery, okay, you quickly realize that the things that were forcing you and pulling you to those situations and those people no longer have the same draw. You don't need it anymore. Why would you bother? Why would you bother driving 20 kilometers to go to that petrol station when you can just be here and have everything you need? Life gets a lot easier. So much easier. So recognizing for you, how does it feel to validate yourself, to feel deeply worthy and enough, to never need the validation? Maybe even me saying that, never needing validation from others again, that might already bring up stuff for you. That might make you already feel like, oh, no, Jesus, no, I need that, you know? That's the old paradigm, the old petrol tank trying to pull you back in. That's where you were conditioned to believe that was all that was ever available. Totally understandable. And again, no disrespect to your parents, they were also conditioned to believe the same thing, hand-me-down patterns, it happens, okay? What's most important now is that you're realizing that you've got, in this neo age of technology, you've got that hybrid power battery of self-worth inside of you. And you get to now move forward in life with that freedom, that internal freedom. It's revolutionary, it's life-changing. Particularly if you're someone who spent a lot of time driving all over the fucking world to get that petrol, okay? Burning your engine out left, right, and center to get that validation and feel worthy just for a split second, and then constantly be thinking again about where's my next fix, okay? I really invite you to marinate in this insight, to really check in with how can I validate myself more? How can I tap more into that self-worth battery? When I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling rejected, okay? When I'm feeling like, you know, my partner isn't giving me love, my parents maybe aren't showing up in the way I want, or my friends aren't inviting me to things. How can I validate myself even more and turn on that internal battery? And what you'll find is, as soon as you're cruising around on that internal power battery, what starts to happen is other people who are still running off their petrol engine start looking at you going, Jesus, look at this person. They've been driving for ages and they haven't had to stop for petrol and they don't even seem worried, and they're just chilling and singing, and you know, they're enjoying the view and looking at the window. They're not looking at their gas meter all the time. What are they doing? What's their story? I want some of that. Where are you getting your petrol from? It must be some like kind of special petrol that they're using, you know, that I don't have. And then you sit and talk to them and you tell them, nah mate, you just got your internal hybrid self-worth battery. And you then get to be the example that starts to show others how to find that battery within themselves and start to validate themselves and realize that beneath it all, they are deeply worthy. They also don't need anyone else. And this is where the ripple effect of you listening to this podcast really starts to spill out into the world as you take this and you apply it, you integrate it and embody it and start to inspire others to do the same. Sending you lots of love today and enjoy driving your new pimped out car around town. You!